This is Money, Motivation, and Mike, and I am your host, Michael Wainwright. In charge of all the controls is our audio engineer, Jason Wright. And hello to you, world. This is the show that will change your life. You can contact us at info@mx3.vip and find all of our contact at mx3.vip or on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/@mx3podcast. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to get notified of all of our new content, which comes out around every Monday morning around 9 o'clock. That's when Jason puts it out to the wavelengths. And once again, you listening and viewing audience, 66,644 subscribers at this particular time of this recording. So once again, thank you, thank you, thank you. So jumping right into the topic, there's actually three things that I'm going to cover today that all has to do with one item, one transaction that took place yesterday. And Jason, it's happened again. 4 confirmed dead, suspect in custody after school shooting in Georgia, according to the USA Today's and of course all of your news outlets that you were listening to on September the 4th, 2024. 4 people were fatally shot and several others injured at a Georgia high school Wednesday morning, sending shockwaves through the suburb of Winder, Georgia, and nearby schools into lockdown. Why weren't they already locked up? We'll get into that here in a minute. 2 students and 2 teachers were killed. Georgia Bureau of Investigation Director Chris Hosey said the GBI identified the 4 victims, as we say, 2 teachers of 39 and 53 years old. The 39-year-old was a coach and offensive coordinator of that high school, and 2 14-year-olds named Mason and Christian. Okay, 9 others also were involved as well. 8 students and another teacher were taken to hospitals with injuries that do not appear at this moment to be life-threatening, authorities said in a late-night briefing, which would have been last night, September the 4th. Suspect shooter Colt Gray, a 14-year-old student. All right, now you think about this. He's 14. The 2 students that were killed, 14. What was going on in that schoolhouse between these 14-year-old classmates that brought us to this point? Now, we're also going to find out that this has been going on for a good year. Now, one of the things I did not think about that just hit me is the potential for going back to bullying in a schoolhouse. And I know of kids right now that transferred out of school districts because of the bullying that they received from other students. And these are grade schoolers that I mention on time on this show today. Colt Gray, 14-year-old student, was arrested and charged with murder. According to the GBI, authorities said he would be prosecuted as an adult. Another interesting thought. So if you're going to try a 14-year-old as an adult, then why do we even have minor rules? Minor as in an individual. I don't know if that number is 18 or 16 that you have to be below to be tried as a minor. So if we're going to be tried as an adult, where does that stop? I know anytime there's a death, it can't get much worse than that. So why is a 14-year-old being tried as an adult if the laws of this land say that he is a minor and that he should be tried as a minor? That doesn't really matter. The kid's going away for a long time, and we all know that. But it doesn't make any sense to me right off the bat with he's going to be tried as an adult. I don't understand. Explain that to me. You're either minor or you're an adult, and that's how you should be tried. So if your act is vicious enough, we'll try you as an adult. So if he was 9 years old and got a gun and did this, is he going to be tried as an adult? I mean, it's a 6-year-old, a 5-year-old, anyone who can get a hold of a gun that can actually have the power to pull the trigger, the strength to pull the trigger, has a chance to kill somebody. All right. Now I know that stuff is few and far between. But of course, there are certain people in this world that are going to throw up gun control, and we'll talk about that momentarily as well. So the active shooter, as we've already talked about, Colt Gray, at Apalachee High School, started coming in around 10:20 yesterday, and law enforcement arrived minutes later. So it appears that we at least have that aspect down now of getting on site. You remember the South Texas, there was a
Vivaldi.
What was it? Vivaldi. How they had problems down there, and officers did not go into the building. We've covered it on this show, and people standing around and not organized of our law enforcement. Maybe we have at least gotten this part down where we won't have those issues according to in the future. Now, according to a database by USA Today, the Associated Press, and Northeastern University, Wednesday's massacre is the 604th mass killing in the U.S. since 2006, in which 4 or more people are killed. The database tracked 3,120 fatalities in main killings across the United States in the last 18 years. USA Today also analyzed the data, found Gray to be the youngest suspect school shooter behind a mass killing since at least 2006. Now, here we go again with where does the FBI come into play with this? Now, when we're talking about presidential stuff here with Donald Trump here in the last month or so, it was also including the Secret Service. But in this particular case, it's just the FBI. FBI received tips about suspected shooter in 2023. And this has to do with the suspected shooter charged with murder of this rampage in Georgia. Now, how about that, Jason? How does that happen? Okay. In May of 2023, the FBI National Threat Operations Center received several anonymous tips about threats to commit a school shooting made on an online gaming site. There's another one. What are these games doing to these kids these days? That all it is about getting killings. The more kills you can get, you win the game. The FBI and Jackson County Sheriff's Office said in a statement the threats didn't identify school or when it would happen, but they contained pictures of guns. Investigators tracked the post to Georgia and to Jackson County, where the sheriff's deputies continued the investigation and found 13-year-old at the time, Colt Gray. And he was interviewed along with his father, and an FBI spokesman said. The father stated he had hunting guns in the house, but the subject did not have unsupervised access to them. The subject denied making the threats online. The Jackson Sheriff's Office alerted local schools at the time, and Gray was monitored, the FBI said. Now, one of the questions is, was he being monitored yesterday? Was he being monitored every day for the last year since May of 2023? How was he being monitored? You already been informed. Let's see, May, June, July, August. 16, 17 months ago, that you may have a person of interest who wants to go in and do some shooting. Once again, the Jackson Sheriff, Janice Magnum, said in a Facebook post during the course of the investigation, the gaming site threats could not be substantiated, so no charges were filed, the investigators said. Now, how did he get on the radar a year ago in May of 23? And why was he not on the radar yesterday? It continues to be, in my eyes, a mystery of the mind, just like with the Donald Trump situation here a month and a half ago. of why a 20-year-old person in the middle of a field can get to a building, climb up on top of it, and take shots at the former president who's currently running for public office. It just makes zero sense to me. And, of course, right off the bat, Vice President and current Democratic nominee Kamala Harris at her rally. This is another senseless tragedy. Okay? She's saying it's senseless, that it could, in my eyes, that it could have been prevented. Okay? Harris said this during a campaign rally in New Hampshire, that it is outrageous that parents have to worry about whether their children will come home alive. Now, as she also said in her, basically, it doesn't have to be this way. Harris said it, and it needs to stop. Now, this is the part that got to me. Quote, "We have to end this gun violence in our country once and for all." Once again, Jason, it's about the guns, and it's the guns' fault. Those guns, they just jump off the shelf and run down the street, and the trigger is pulled by the gun. Interesting. Let's go blame the gun once again, as President Biden also came out and said the same thing. And of course, he and First Lady Jill Biden are mourning the losses of the dead and praying for them, just like everybody else is. And it's got to be about gun violence. How come it was not gun violence when JFK was assassinated? How come it was not gun violence last month when shots went at Donald Trump and killed one person who was shielding his family behind Donald Trump? How come it wasn't gun violence then? How come it was the FBI and the Secret Service's fault, but not gun violence? Once again, we are missing the big picture, and that is mental health. What gets into a 14-year-old's mind to go into a schoolhouse and start shooting and killing people? What gets into a 20-year-old's mind to show up and try to shoot a presidential candidate? And we can go through the list, as we've talked about on this show, all the way back to Columbine, Colorado. A 14-year-old. Now, if it's gun violence, Jason, if it's gun violence, gets up this morning and decides he's just going to go, hey, there's a gun, and I want to go see if that gun will work. I want to go shoot that gun. Instead of just shooting it into the air because I want to have a gun, I'm going to go find somebody that is actually moving, a human target, a person walking around. Hey, maybe a couple of my classmates, maybe a teacher, maybe two teachers. That's what I'm going to go do today. And it's all about the gun. The federal government needs to wake up. We know more about the ocean. We know more about the moon than we know about mental health, because we can't see mental health. So it's no big deal. The arm is not broken. So you don't think they have a broken arm, and you can't see that broken mind inside. You have to think about this. A 14-year-old has to be controlled from gun violence. That's hogwash, Jason. Freaking hogwash. And let's go about this. I know that going all the way back to AD 1000, there were guns involved in this world. Now, the modern gun that we know of, I believe you looked up something before we came on the air here. Tell me about that.
By the end of the 13th century, they had become true guns, metal barrel firearms that fired single projectiles, which included the barrel.
800 years ago.
Yes.
800 years ago, since we've had the gun as we know it today, it's been 800 years. But today, guns are the issue. They're not the issue when we're shipping guns across the world to some of our allies, are they? They're not the issue whenever people make money off guns and contribute to campaigns. They're not the issue when a politician wants to have a gun in their house. They only become an issue when people who need mental health between the ears get involved. I am working, and I started that process this morning. I am working diligently on getting a doctor, psychiatrist. I don't want to use the word shrink, but a lot of people do on this show to talk about mental health and what is mental health and why is mental health important for your overall health, and can you manage your health? I mean, you can be in the black hole today and you can come out with proper guidance instruction. And I grew up in one of those households, and I grew up believing that you only need counseling if you are a quack. And the reason I thought that is because I was ignorant. And that is not the case anymore. And it hasn't been for several years. And my mental makeup, I'm telling you, that pandemic did me a good number, Jason. Sitting around and doing nothing by yourself in a home and not being able to get out, that can take you down. And a lot of people had those issues that cause the mental illness that goes along, and mental illness goes way back. It goes back to your childhood experiences that can flare up at a later date. And then the behavioral factors and the chemical imbalances in the brain. Have you noticed, as I'm going through these things, and you end up using, because you have a mental issue, an illness, you get into alcohol, you get into drugs, the loneliness, the isolation, the depression. Have you noticed through all these things I've been talking about for the last couple of minutes, I have not mentioned guns? So when people go out and get drunk and hit somebody and kill them, was it the person or was it the alcohol? Well, they don't ever throw the alcohol away. They don't go and ban alcohol. They put the person in jail, which is where this 14-year-old gray kid's going. All right. But once again, you are overlooking the actual issue. How many 14-year-olds out there yesterday, out there in that world, got up and went to school and did not shoot somebody? How many 14-year-olds got up yesterday and went to school and had access to a gun before they left the house? A whole bunch. Now, why do they not have a gun problem? Because they're mentally stable. You don't know where this kid is, but I can tell you a 14-year-old that goes into a schoolhouse with a gun has mental issues. It's not a mystery of the mind. It's a mystery of the mind that we continue to think it's about the gun and how a gun goes off without any human interaction. And the reason it has human interaction is because you have a mental problem between your ears. But these presidential candidates want to jump out there right off the bat, not knowing the stability of the house, not knowing what's going on, not knowing what this kid has been drugged to for 14 years, not knowing anything about him. It's about the gun. I don't know. Well, I do know. I know that if you believe it's about the gun, you're wrong. And that is a hardcore statement. There is no black and white and gray mixed together here. It's either right or it's wrong. It's good or it's bad. It's left or it's right. It's black or it's white. And that's just the way it is. But if you want to continue to go on with your head in the sand thinking it's about the gun, I'll even take it a little step further. We have a lot of hunting that goes on in this world. A lot of hunting that goes on in the United States. Deer season happens at a certain time. Duck season happens. All of the animal species, there are different times of the year when you get to hunt. Okay. Not one gun has ever went out and shot and killed an animal without an individual pulling the trigger. Okay? Now, that's not my cup of tea. I don't like to go out and shoot and kill animals. I understand a lot of people do. And frankly, I do like to eat deer meat. It's good. I get past the thought of shooting the animal. But we also know that animals gives us a lot of nutrition and goodies on a regular basis, starting with cattle and right on down the list, and to pork and etc. And it works the same thing with the deer. But not one of these animals has ever been shot by a gun laying in the floorboard of a pickup truck in the middle of a field. Not one of these shotguns that is on a rack behind your head in your pickup truck has ever went off without the help of an individual. But it's the guns. Money, Motivation, and Mike. We continue to try to bring you things, topics, and subjects that you would feel is important to your world and your life. And I do believe today is another one of those. We have strong elections coming up. Never before in my 55 years of life do I think it is a very important election like it is right now. And I'm going back and I'm talking about Reagan. You knew Reagan was going to win a second term. You knew Clinton was going to win a second term. You knew George Bush #2 was going to win a second term. You knew Obama was going to win a second term. On and on and on. And now we're on the rotating basis of who is the best of the worst candidates is kind of where we are. And you need to get out there and you need to look at these candidates and you need to determine what is best for you in your world. And you need to go stake your opinion. Sitting at home and not doing anything and not being involved, not voting, is going to cost you dearly. If you don't vote come November, you need to shut up and not say a word. Always contact us at info@mx3.vip and find all of our content at mx3.vip or on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@mx3podcast. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to get notified by Jason of when our content comes out, which is basically every Monday morning Central Time, 9 o'clock a.m. So, I've been, in some people's eyes, very opinionated today. And in my eyes, it's based on facts. So you need to go out and do your fact finding and determine what your beliefs are based on the facts that you come, because I sure have. And I would love for somebody to contact us, info@mx3.vip, and tell us how a gun has went out and caused violence without an individual behind it. Please do that. So until next time, continue to live your life the right way.